All right. Not bad. Not bad. We got music. We got people. Good morning. It's the Dev Talk Show. It is Wednesday, almost the end of October,
Yeah,
October 30th, as I
great.
as I try and rifle through what date today is. But welcome everyone. Um, Joining me as always is my partner in crime, Chris Gomez. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing good, but it looks like there's something going on my machine where does it look like
Oh wow.
yeah, see that? That makes me wonder
You're like,
what's running
you're,
that's like eating up.
it's like this trippy.
Sure. I just wonder, is there some CPU spike of some kind going on? I don't know. Doesn't really look like it. It makes me wonder like if I should reboot the camera, rejoin the stream. Interesting.
um yeah, let's
But
see.
but everybody can hear me okay, perhaps. Just a
I
little
think so. That's what I'm gonna
distracting.
check right now. Yeah.
So
Um,
here, let me stop the camera and restart it and see if it makes any difference. It didn't.
yeah, we can hear you. So that's
Yeah.
good.
I noticed as soon as we started talking, I said, oh, look at, I'm like in this funny slow motion thing. But anyways, welcome to the Dev Talk Show, everybody.
Yes. As usual. When you don't do this every, once a
Well,
week
it's just
ish.
weird. It's weird. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what it is? Um, in any case,
Cool. Yeah. I think so yeah, we got a bit of a short show because I gotta make sure I'm out of here by 9 or before 9, a little bit before, because I have customer things to do.
right.
But I think we want to kind of jump in and continue the user group app that we've been working on, and maybe take a look at taking that new project that we created last time and um, moving that over to into Azure and kind of see if we can get a static web app up and running here. So
Yeah, it'd be neat to see it all working, right? So let me
because they put a Cosmo database in place last time.
yeah, we did. I think I've torn it down. But one of the things that and I think this is helpful in some respects is that definitely, in fact, I think this is what we're going to talk about at first here is,
Mhm.
it's one thing. I have a joke I use on this channel a lot is, friends don't let friends use the portal. But the
Right.
joke is really more about automate everything. And
Yes.
years ago, I'll have to find this YouTube video. It's from years ago, and it was Scott Guthrie, his top 10 tips for Azure.
Okay.
And again, it's not all that recent. I got to admit, it must be 5-6 years ago. And we were at a point in cloud. Heck, it might have been longer. We were at a point in cloud, and maybe still are, where maturity in use of the cloud is still pretty new. So his number one tip, the thing he led off with, was automate everything, and that stuck with me.
Okay.
I still
Cool.
remember that. I don't even remember what the other 9 things were, but I specifically remembered that automate everything. And so, if you watch the show, you'll notice that I often am trying to figure out what's the script for this, how do we want to do this so that there's a button that you push, or maybe not even a button that you push. And so um, I think where we'll start off is, we know that in the Dev Talk Show repository, we have well, not in the organization. In the organization, we have, of course, it's going to be not in popular. We have Orbital, right? And Orbital was, we actually asked Copilot to help us come up with a code name here. User group
True.
meeting management application. Maybe we'll come up with the real name another time. I don't know if I've told the story on the show before. This is a true story, by the way. I was working for a company that contracted with Disneyland to build a CD making machine called Disneyland Forever. Did this in the 90s.
Right.
One of the coolest things I ever got to do. And this is the CTO of the fledgling company told us the story of why the code name for the project was Genghis. Because we did all the
Okay.
code and everything, the code, the files, all of the documentation. The code name was Genghis. I don't think at this point in time, this many years after the fact, I'm revealing anything that's super secret about Project Genghis. And he was asked one day, I just happened to be around, like, why call it Genghis? Like, really weird. And he said the reason was, he says, I've worked with big companies before. I've worked with big media companies before. And if I had named it something that was even close to anything that would be okay to put in front of people, they would have gone with it. And I didn't want to name it. I wanted it to be named by the customer. So by naming it Genghis, he said, there's no way in heck they're going to call it Genghis. Like a Genghis Khan type.
Exactly.
So it was named Disneyland Forever. And I thought about that.
That's funny.
I said, like, what an interesting story that he said, I don't want to be responsible for the name, so we'll name it something that no one would ever take to market.
Yeah. Well, that's it's either a good code name or a good brand name. You can't have both.
Right. So in any case, let's talk about tools. And this might be, I hope this episode is really helpful to people, because there are so many different ways to do things. For example, I'm in Windows Terminal. I like Windows.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big Windows Terminal fan. I'm going to make the font nice and big for people to watch, which kind of messes up Oh My Posh just a little bit. But if I clear, then it's fine. I have a very minimalistic Oh My Posh, terminal setup, where I just see what folder I'm in, whether or not I'm administrator, and then what is the Azure subscription that I'm logged into, because I like AZ. I like the AZ command line tool. AZ, and I just did AZ version to take a look at it. It's telling me, here you are, 2.52, great. Oh, look, I could update it if I really wanted to, but I'm not going to do that right now. And I happen to be in PowerShell. But in Windows Terminal, many of you may already have the Azure Cloud Shell. I think when you install Windows Terminal, Azure Cloud Shell's in here, but I use it so much that sometimes I start to forget, how does the system show up by default? I don't know for sure.
Yeah. Cloud Shell, because I have not added, I'm just going to do a quick check on mine. And yeah, it is in there. So it is one of those things you get access to.
I'm a big fan of Cloud Shell. So here I am.
Cloud Shell's
Cloud
awesome.
Shell
Yeah.
is Bash, and maybe it's always Bash. I don't know. I've never really thought about that. On the portal, you can pick.
On the portal, you can pick. Yeah, I don't. That's a good question.
I don't know if it is because again, I talk about this a lot too. Is you set something up as a developer, and then years later you forget what you did, and this leads to the whole problem at work of the new developer joins, and it's like, well, let me help you set up your machine, and there's all these little inconsistencies. So like, I'm a big fan of, can we automate even that, so that way it's the same for everybody, at least as much as possible. That's a hard thing. So here in Azure Cloud Shell, if I type AZ, I also have access to the CLI, right? So that's cool.
Same version.
Yeah, I don't know that it's the same version. In fact, I would like to think that it maybe is updated. Yep, CLI is up to date, because of course, this is the cloud shell. What really happens is you get a terminal in Azure to work with, right? So awesome that they keep it up to date. Awesome team. And then this is Ubuntu in WSL. It happens to be 2402. And as you can see, I was double checking a little bit earlier. What version am I on? 252. Okay, fine. Says I could do some updates. Sounds great. So I could work in Bash. I could work in PowerShell. So I think that's kind of neat that now it kind of begs the question is that should I produce multiple versions of the scripts? I don't know if that's necessary. I think maybe you could kind of, as a team, pick one environment. But I have seen GitHub projects where they work very hard to make your experience so simple that you might just run a script that works on Linux or Mac, and then maybe another batch file So it's all there. Everything's there. So the average person just opens command prompt, runs a batch file, or they might open PowerShell, run this script. They might open their Linux box, run the SH, and boom, they're up and running. So
Yep.
there's other ways too, though. I'm talking about AZ today, the AZ CLI, but I would be remiss if I left out the fact that there are tons of other tools that we could be using and maybe should explore. Like we'll do this poor person's whiteboard here.
Whiteboard. Yeah.
So we have the A's. This is just Notepad, the new Notepad that's tabbed, which I kind of like. It's really grown on me. At first, I like, give me back my old Notepad, but the other thing about it is it's hot, which is a term to mean like VS Code often. Have you ever opened a file in VS Code, just close VS Code, you didn't save it or anything?
Yeah.
And
VS you Code, come back and it's still there.
Yeah, VS Code keeps these files hot, so I could leave now and it'd be fine. We also have AZD, the Azure Developer CLI, which we have worked with on this show. This is, if I remember correctly, it's template based, right?
Yes. And templates come from either automatically from the because there's a central repository of those templates, or it can look at your project like we've seen people do with Aspire. Look at your project and say, hey, you've got an Aspire project here. We think we know how to put a template in place for you based on understanding how that project is.
Okay, so would we call that wizard based? I don't know if I want to call it wizard based, but it can inspect your project.
Yeah, I think inspect is probably the right way to put it. It's definitely not a wizard, because I guess it's, more intelligently defining a template.
I like the idea of looking at this. I don't know that we're ready to yet, but I like it.
Yeah. Because while they both can deploy components to Azure, one of the cool things that developer CLI, so the AZ CLI will give us a script that we can run. And so it's repeatable from that perspective. The developer CLI can actually give us templates in Bicep or Terraform that we can then use as part of a CI/CD pipeline.
Okay, that's right, because it supports like you can basically have Bicep and Terraform output, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Okay. So, and then of course, the other thing that we're not doing, that I'm not writing here, is the Azure portal. And look, Azure portal, great to learn the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
Great to explore options. Then what I tend to like to do is to say, repeat what might have been done in portal.
Yeah.
Because I'll do something in the portal just to learn. Like, I don't even know what the options are for something new. So, okay, let's just do it. Let's just go. It's really great. It works. And then I say, okay, I want to do this again. And here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to come back here and say, what did I click? Did I check this box? Did I not check this box? What did I do? I don't remember. So I don't want it to be different. So, okay.
And with that, just to make mention, as you do something like that through the portal, when you get to the end of those, what really is like a wizard, those steps of, hey, define the basic stuff, define the network, define the, the storage, what have you. At the end of that, when you go to create, there's a little hyperlink at the bottom that then lets you essentially download, not a script, but more the template that can be used to recreate everything you just did.
Yeah. So, we didn't even discuss ARM.
Right.
And I'm not 100% sure. I really hope that this is still the name of it. Azure Resource Manager, template based. And I want to say the templates are JSON.
Yep.
And again, it's scriptable from the portable. Portable. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And then
everything you do, whether it's CLI or Azure Developer CLI or Bicep or Terraform, ultimately compiles that it somehow creates an ARM template. because that's how Azure understands how to deploy these resources. So it doesn't matter where you are and what you've abstracted away. That's still the thing that gets created.
Yeah. And then you can use things to use, I mean, you can deploy those templates many different ways. I've done something similar to that before. It makes me wonder if when that kind of has me wondering if when I run an AZ command, if I could have it produce, the template for me. It's possible. I certainly not something that I know right now, so maybe I shouldn't worry about that too much.
Yeah.
So let's let's get started by doing maybe something that seems a little odd here. Let me find. Okay, here we are. So we know we don't have anything in here yet. We haven't put anything in here. So let's go ahead and open the portal. I know I just had this whole long soliloquy about not using the portal, but part of this is in my opinion is so we can say yeah, let's go ahead and open resource groups. And what I'm going to do is narrow the subscriptions. Here's just some, like, for instance, this happens to be the website, which I know we haven't done a whole lot with in a while. And then there's some other resource groups here that I think were created for other purposes. Like I have some file storage here and some things like that. I don't think it's that big a deal. But it has come to where I've started to memorize some commands. So here I am in PowerShell. AZ group list is the command to list resource groups in your subscription. And then I like personally, if I'm going to view this, I want to view it as a table. So I say /-o table. And the whole reason I showed you the portal is the list matches. So, okay, yeah. Awesome.
Nice.
I could say --output, and I could say JSON. And now this might be a little bit more automatable. You could you could write some code maybe more easily to take this output, pipe it out to something you wrote, and then do something useful with this. I don't know what that would be, but yeah. I kind of remember in my head, if I want to look at it, then I want table.
Yes.
And if I want to write something to look at it, then I want JSON.
Yeah, because what you can do with the JSON is you get a lot more data back, and B, you can essentially, there's a query parameter. So you can then say query and get back the ID of the object, or get back the, so you can do those kind of things scripting wise.
Yeah, I've done those query things before as well. Like I think I can even do it here. I don't know if I remember it exactly, but I used to be pretty good at it to where it's the kind of thing I feel like I have to relearn. But I could basically say I really only want name.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if it's as simple as me doing this. I could be wrong.
No, there's a link there to learn more about query.
Yeah. And again, it is cool. In fact, let's go ahead and click over here. So it uses these queries called JMES path queries. And so that way, even though there's some basic concepts here, if you want to learn more, then you head out to a whole website and you learn all about it, right? So,
oh wow.
In fact, I think this is how you do it. No, that's not. This is if you want to query, and then if you just want to say name. So I wonder. I've used all this stuff, and I actually have learned there was a time when I'd learned a fair number of these, because what I could do, maybe it might just be as simple as me. It might have been as simple as me going query and then saying name here. Nope, didn't do what I wanted. Does it have to be capitalized? Just last try before I give up. Okay. I have done this on the show before. I have had purpose-built command lines ready to go with queries that did not show the fields that I didn't want displayed.
Right. You've got them saved as variables or environment variables.
Right. I might have them saved as variable, but it could also be that I'm about to, I'm going to show some Azure resource, but there is something in there that maybe it's not exactly a secret, but I just don't really want to deal with. I just don't want it shown. I don't want to muddy the waters for the viewer, or maybe I just really don't want it shared. So I'll use query to kind of limit the rows. Like I might show this exact same group list, but instead of showing location and status, just say what are the names of the groups, and just to keep it simple. So I've done stuff like that before. Okay. So we don't even have, there's a couple things we haven't done yet, and maybe we have to decide the ordering here. For one thing, that project from last time is still not, what was it called? It was called Orbital. Has not been pushed up to GitHub. I'm pretty sure we created this solution and then we ran it and we made sure it worked. And then we went one better and used the live server extension in VS Code on the published output just to see that the static and static web apps worked. That's all we did.
Yeah.
So this is not up in GitHub. I know that because if I go back to the browser and go to the repo, here we are. We're still pretty much at the beginning here. So we could get this up there. Shouldn't be too much to it. In fact, I think if I say git status, nothing's tracked yet. If I do git add, I think -A is what you're supposed to do. Oh, it's supposed to be 2 dashes. Well, then let's just use 1 dash. Maybe I'm wrong. I know that this is not necessarily the best thing to do, the git add dot, but now I've already forgotten. So let's take a look at this git status now. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to send up all of your source files here. I guess the VS Code stuff's going to go. That's interesting. Solutions going, but not the bin folder, none of the output, nothing that we published. That all makes sense.
Yeah. Just all the stuff you would need to run the site.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably more than that because I don't think we have a ton of code in there to begin with anyway.
Right. And so I'm just going to say git commit -m file new project Blazor standalone because there really isn't much more to say.
Sure.
And so now I have a commit. And if I look in my log, we have the initial commit that we saw up on GitHub, and we have my new commit there. And if I do a git status, it's going to tell me like, yeah, you're now one ahead of Origins, which is, I always like to point up when I mean GitHub. I don't know why, because I don't know where the data center is. It could be over there or whatever, but I always point up to the cloud, I guess. So all I got to do is push this. And very quickly head back over, and here we go. So that's good.
Nice. Yep.
Now, I think what we want to try to do is we want to try to deploy this using GitHub Actions, maybe, or do we just want to try deploying it in general? I wonder if we're biting off more than we can chew all in one step here.
So here's the thing: if we try it, we can deploy locally because you are signed in as you and you have permissions in your environment. If we try and do this with GitHub Actions, we're gonna have to authenticate. And then the question is, well, how are we going to authenticate? Are we going to create a service principal, or are we going to use, basically a managed identity inside of Azure, inside of the Azure AD or Azure ID? And those can be done. Those are a little more complicated to do. Okay.
And so something we should definitely explore, but maybe let's just get this working. And
exactly.
We'll go from there.
The 25 or so minutes we got left. Yeah.
Right. So how can I do that? Well, certainly I could go to the portal. I could create a resource group here. I could do that. And I have a feeling we might end up in the portal anyway, but let's try. I mean, I don't know. We're going to find out. Let's try.
Say good morning, Chops. Good to see you.
Awesome. So let's try something else. Let's try. I've already listed the user groups over and over and over. So here in PowerShell, what I can do, I like to do this. You don't have to do this. I tend to start gathering up commands that will help me. So here's a command that creates a resource group. You provide the name of the resource group, you provide the location, and then you provide how do you want. I like to decide. I almost always say how I want the output returned, but you don't have to.
Sure. Okay.
So but the problem is you can see I've made this variable based. So, if I run it right now, it's going to be, actually, I think I already had the variables. So, so how do I look at the variables? Oh yeah, look at this. I already have variables defined. So I can just, okay, orbital RG. And I was sitting here thinking like, oh, I'm not
Location.
going to have the variables defined. Yeah. And you can see it. I love how it's reminding me like, well, here's what you did before. I wonder if I'll have to turn that off if any of these variables end up being a secret, right? So how do
Right.
you do this in PowerShell? Well, you do it something like just this. That creates a variable, a string variable. So
Nice and easy.
yeah, piece of cake. And so I have created a resource group. Its name is orbital RG. It succeeded. If I head back to the portal just to take a look, then here it is. It's sitting right here, ready to go. That's interesting that it didn't save this. That's okay. No big deal. So I've got that. And I could have also done the same thing here, except that if I remember correctly, here I would want to use a command like, in fact, I wonder, I don't remember exactly how close the commands are. Oh, so that's dark mode getting in my way there.
Yeah, it's export variable name, no $sign at the beginning, and then whatever it equals to.
There it goes. I hit escape a bunch of times.
$sign.
So I would not use the $sign. That's right. That's right. And maybe that's good enough.
I would also not have spaces in between the equal sign. I don't know why. I've run into issues when I do that.
Another thing that I think is correct is a lot of times this seems to be kind of a convention. I could follow this convention in PowerShell too if I wanted.
Sure.
All right. So now that I've done that, I think I can just echo it back out, right?
With the $sign.
So the key is like I said earlier, you could have things that work in Bash, work in PowerShell, work in Command, whatever you want. Doesn't matter.
Yep. Yeah, and there's a way in Bash to export that so it persists in your user folder, so that value will go session to session, basically. If we close the browser here and come back, that's going to go away.
Right. Right. So here, here I am. I'll just create a second user group because I'm resource group because we're not actually going to use it. But if I said like a group create and I say easy resource group, and I didn't actually, I'm just going to pick a different location. I think Central US is a location.
Mm-hmm.
And except that, you know what, I don't really want to use the same resource group name. That'll fail. So let's say, I'm just going to call it orbital test RG because we're not actually going to use this one. Then I can create a user. I can create even though I'm in a different shell. So the point is use the shell you like. Use what you like.
Right.
That's the point.
Aside from the copy paste issue of the format, you could have taken that same code and copied it from the PowerShell one and moved it into the Bash one because the command is basically the same.
Yeah, I just wasn't 100% sure if the syntax worked on the variables. It might be fine. It might be fine, and just because I don't know. So,
yep.
All right. So, what else do we need? We need a static web app, and I think I also have a. Yeah. See, I already have an AZ static web app defined. So. Here's a command, create a static web app. You supply the name of it, the resource group, which is already in a variable, location, and then I want the output as JSON. And I don't know if this is going to be instantly created, but because sometimes just because the command returns doesn't necessarily mean the resource is created. So here's where, just for learning, I'm going to go ahead and head to the portal, and it kind of looks like it's kind of ready to go. Already got a domain, can already visit the site. They must put, so it's ready to go. Look at that. It's awesome. That was cool.
Victorious Rock.
Yeah, I love how it just and then throws some other, I don't know where this other randomness comes from.
Some randomness. Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't know, but it kind of seems good enough. And then you can do all these other great things. So what we're starting to head towards is we know that we could automate like a new project, or maybe we could write some scripting that would make sure that this is in place, or we could use Bicep, or we could use Terraform. So there's just so many different options.
Yep.
Okay. The last thing that I want to take a look at here is we have been looking at group lists for a while, right? If I go back far enough, here we go. That's me trying to figure out the query stuff on the fly. I want to get rid of this test group. I don't actually need it. And so over time, I have come to favor, like, you can use delete, and I can say -- resource group if I want to explicitly have that spelled out. I can also say -G. It's the same thing. And I want to get rid of orbital test RG. Now, if I hit enter right now, I'll get stuck waiting for the deletion. So, and I also will get asked to confirm. So if I say -Y, now look, a little dangerous, right? I'm saying don't bother confirming. I want this deleted. Here's a command I like: -- no wait. Because it takes a little bit to delete a resource group. Unlike, it doesn't take as long because there's nothing in this resource group. But if I go to even if I go to delete orbital RG, the one that we have the static web app in, it'll sit for a little bit. So this is just going to get around that, and it's just going to return. And now if I take a look at the list, it happened very quickly. But if it was still in the middle of deleting, the status would say deleting.
Interesting.
So that's it. That's it for
that is good to know.
Intro to command line stuff. You might even like it and say, "Hey, I'll learn some of these commands." Sometimes you can move around pretty quickly.
Cool.
Now, we want to try and deploy this web app. So this is the part where I think you can point it at you can go the other direction and point this at a GitHub repo. Is that what you think we should do next? I wonder if you have some thoughts here.
You could do that. That would get us around mapping all of the, kind of going the other way and creating all of the assets. It kind of makes that for you. So we could try that. So if we go into settings and automation, let's try that one. I forget where they down. Yeah, it's another block. Interesting.
I could be wrong too. Like, for example, let's see. So I am seeing this, and I actually was looking at this for a little bit too, is I can run a command that looks like, so there's AZ static web app show. Oh, and it kind of looks like I've already run this before, because look at what it remembers. AZ static web app, the name, resource group, so, and then default host name. So it's going to return, it's using query. If I get rid of the query, we can see what it was going to do. Oh, it was going to be a mess. So let's change that to JSON. I think that'll be a little bit easier to look at in the fact that I have the font so big. We just want one value out of here. We wanted this.
Right.
That's all we really wanted. And so we can do that with a query and say, default host, and just get back the default host name. Now, what we really want to do is we need that URL. We need that. And so there's actually a tutorial in Learn where they store it into a variable. And so that's really all we've done here. So now at least I know where that URL is. So I'm wondering if I can deploy from the command line relatively easily. Let me find out. Oh, actually, so this is also, the particular thing I'm looking at now does use a GitHub action. So how about, what if I come in the portal here, create a static web app, view the website, great, but it doesn't talk about how. I feel like in the portal there was configure a deployment to publish your app. Is that what I'm looking for? Configure a deployment to publish your app. Click here to learn more.
Yeah.
Oh, funny. It went to the exact same thing. So create a static web app, create a repository, review and create, view the website. I have a feeling that there was there a place where
there's a Blazor one right there.
Build presets dropdown, but oh, this is linking it to Azure DevOps.
I mean,
oh, actually, no, it looks like you can select that.
Yeah.
Is this part of creating? Do you have to?
Oh, as part of creating, we still should be able to modify.
Right. We're just trying to figure out where in the portal to do it.
Up at in that search box there at the top, can you just put like, not that one, too far, under the orbital SWA. There. No.
What did you want me to type?
I was going to say GitHub. Nope. Okay. It might just be on create, which is unfortunate.
Well, no, hold on. I feel like on create seems weird, but maybe.
Because I know you could do it was, when this first launched, it was kind of out of the box that it just worked with GitHub, and that as you pushed your code, that new code wound up on in your web app.
Let's try this.
Okay. Well, there you go. There's Reconnect down there. Connect to a repo branch following a disconnect command.
Okay. So AZ static web app reconnect. Okay, so you still have to set up all the tokens and everything. But it looks like you can do that interactively. That's interesting. Connect a repo and branch to a static app. Connect a repo to a branch and static app, retrieving the token interactively. Do we want to give that a shot? Why not, right? So there's some things we got to change. First of all, yeah, exactly. I know we know that that's the static web app is not found. So we need the static web app name, which I think I have a variable for. But it was also orbital static web app, I think. Let's double check. Yeah. All right. So now we have the name. The source is the repo, I suppose. The problem is how does it know my GitHub repo? I feel like there's something else to tell it the location of the GitHub repo. Maybe I'm wrong. See how there's really no example there? I'm not hearing you, by the way.
Oh, sorry. I went on mute. CLI source. Okay, so it's AZ static web app. Dun, dun, dun. You're doing a reconnect, right?
Right.
Reconnect. Okay. Source is the URL of the repository for the static site.
Okay. Well, that's doable. Okay. So now that's in there.
And then you need the branch as well, which is main, right?
That's right. And I still think there might be some interesting issues here, though, because it's not. This isn't the published code, right?
Okay.
Where,
Sure.
but let's see. I feel like the worst thing that happens is static web app already exists. Okay, so maybe that's the disconnect command first. I don't know that there's anything else to do other than disconnect. Okay, well, it did say didn't complain. So now let's reconnect. And this time it says static already exists. It already exists. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like it's trying to create it new.
Do you really? It makes you wonder, is that something you have to do? Do you really have to delete it? Well, let's do it. And just to keep things moving, I'm going to reconnect and give it a new name.
Okay.
Not that I think this is for sure this is going to work, but let's find out. Oh, see, not found. So when we did the create, what other options did we have? Could I have created it with some of these other things? Create, branch, yeah, source control, login with GitHub. So it seems like all of those options were available at that point in time. And then, yeah, look at this, a directory. So I suppose I could upload it from here too with this app location.
Oh. Yeah, depending on where we run the command from.
Right. So I'm already in Orbital. And if I remember from last time, and because I'm going to do this visually, a lot of people may have just learned something that start dot will open up Explorer. And if I say Orbital Web, bin, did we publish? No, we didn't publish here. We published, maybe that is where we published, release, .NET 9, publish, yes. And if I remember correctly, we tried running from here and that was fine. That's exactly what we wanted. So that's from I believe this would be the path from where we're sitting.
Right. Or we published it too. Yep.
Right. So that's obviously not what I want right at this second, but let's go back and say static, when we said static web app create, where did we have that? Here we go. So name of the static web app we know, resource group we know, location we know. We're going to add a few more things.
Yeah.
We're going to say add app location, which I think is local.
Application.
I think, yeah, okay. I think that's local. I think this is what we want to get to.
Right.
We want it coming out of source control. And I think GitHub Actions is going to be the answer there. But
Yeah.
let's see if we can get this just working right now. I don't know that that did what I wanted. Okay. I may just type this in. And again, I don't know, does application need to be in quotes?
I mean, if you got spaces in it, it probably does, but
it's not .NET 9.0. Well, so it thought about it. It didn't blow up on us.
no.
And what kind of things did it say here? It gave us a new default host name, White Flower something.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe it succeeded. I was looking for one of these things to maybe say succeeded, but maybe that is the definition of success here. So let's head back over to the portal and see what we've done. The new URL is here. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. That did not do. Oh, site will be ready soon. No, I don't think so. I don't think that this did what we wanted.
Doesn't look like it came with it.
We're not seeing the Blazor app here.
Yeah.
So very close, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Application. Interesting that. I don't know for sure if there was more I needed to do. Oh, interesting. The output of your build output relative to your app's location. If your application is set to app. Huh.
Gotcha.
Maybe output location is what I wanted.
Yeah. Want to do one more since that was quick?
It did seem pretty quick, huh? And it was output location is what it was?
Yeah.
It just does that so
came
fast,
back with
right?
White Flower.
Yeah. It does that so quickly. You kind of wonder, like, well, what happened?
Did you give it a different name?
I didn't.
Yeah, we might need to.
I'm going to scroll all the way back here. So if I head back to the resource group, I think I should find a second one now. No?
Just search for
oh, here it is.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
But still not apparently deploying. So
interesting.
So let's try this. Let's try.
This might be the last thing.
Yeah, I agree. Let's try static web app because it seems like these are pretty quick to create. We're going to have to figure out what the secret sauce is here from the command line. And I'm going to call this orbital3.swa free. We'll say other. See, that doesn't help me, but we'll say GitHub. But then I have to log in. I don't know that there's a whole lot for me to worry about here. Oh, that didn't work. I have to use my authenticator app real quick.
Okay.
Okay, so that's good. Oh no. Is it gonna complain? Yeah. Looks like I have to do some more enabling. It looks like I could do it. but
Yeah.
it's not going to happen very quickly. Okay. Well, we've got more work to do.
Yeah, and I think what we can probably do is on the other side, maybe for Friday, we can take this so that we show what the process is to get from authentication and creating those components, and then have that sit in that GitHub repository so that we can then just basically push things over. I think that might be the good way to go.
Right. Yeah. I mean, certainly we want to get to a state where when we do some work, the app deploys. That's where we want to get to.
Exactly.
Getting some of those basics going so that we don't do them later or try to do them later.
Yeah. Right. Because
look, looks like my choppy camera went away, though.
Which is awesome. Yeah, not settled out.
Cool. All right. Well,
cool.
So we learned a little bit about the Azure CLI and some other options. And I think I'd like to keep exploring those options, because sometimes, look at us as we're trying to follow how to get things working for real. And there's always that little hump to get over. So, all right.
Yep.
But it is time for stand up. So we got to get moving.
Yep, we do. And so thanks, Chris, for walking through that. Thank you for hanging out and being with us this morning and joining us. If you're there this long, click the like button at the bottom, subscribe if you're not already, because 80% of our people who watch are not subscribed. That's kind of shocking. So help us out with that. And either way, we will see you back here Friday on the Dev Talk Show.